So today's project is going to be resealing this dipper cylinder on this Hitachi Zx120. This one here is weeping around here. You can see this small bit of oil out of it. Obviously that has never been resealed, or a long time since it has been. This machine has 8,300 hours, and I'm just unsure as to what the history is with this, but judging by the paint on it, it could be still original. I doubt it, but it is possible. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to also fix this. This has been broke at some stage and re-welded, so I'm going to make a small bracket up here to carry this hose like that there. Just keep it up, because the original pipe on the far side, as you can see, they come out that far and it supports the pipe to flow down here. So I'm going to do that too whenever I get the cylinder done. So first things first is to get the cylinder off. I'm going to use the loader here to strap it up. I'm going to probably take the pipes off the back side to drain the cylinder, because the cylinder will be full of oil actually in the closed position at the minute, which would be less oil than in the open position. And yeah, I'm going to pull these pipes off, put them into a bucket, drain it, unpin it. Well, I'll unpin it first and drain it, and then get the collar out, get this whole entire piece out, and I'll show you from there on out where we go from there, and how to put the seals on the piston, etc. Since there's a special method of putting the seals and the pistons on these. So yeah, I'll show you that now in a while. Okay, so that went a little bit fun. Needless to say, I got it. We got it off and got it mounted. The other cylinders, the bucket cylinder and the boom cylinders, are a lot smaller than this. A lot later, I think they're a little bit shorter, and their circumference of the actual cylinder is actually smaller. So this was a lot more than I could lift on my own. So I had to use the little crane to do it. So got it lifted anyway. So the idea of this is I welded this here specifically to do this job back a long time ago, a few years ago. And this here is to hold this while I open this nut. So I'm going to use Stilson wrenches on this here, take the lock screw out and the ball that's in behind it. And I'm going to put the Stilson on this and actually use the loader to open it, because these here are torqued I think something like 1200 Newton meters, I think. And I won't be torquing it back up. I'll just be going by where the mark is. There's a mark where the ball sits. So I'll be tightening it up as best I can with a pipe on the Stilson wrench to tension it up hard enough. Once it's where it was originally, it's fine. So it's going to be more than tight enough, and as long as this lock screw is in it, which is very important to make sure that never opens. If that were to ever open, this here could slide out. This entire part could slide out at the end of the cylinder once you'd put oil to it, and it could blow it out of severe force. It could do a lot of harm. So yeah, these are very important. And I know by looking at these marks here that this cylinder has been done before, because you would only ever originally have 2 center punch marks to tighten it, and in this case you have another 2. So somebody has done this again. So I'm going to have to get the die grinder and die grind out just a little area around it so that I can give me enough space. It seems to be well worn. It's the main seal seems to be well flattened anyway. These bearings here are well gone as well. Look at it, I say it was due. Probably did a lot of work. So anyway, so we're going to get stuck into this, get this apart, and get new seals onto it, and I'll show you what I'm doing. This is the seal I was talking about earlier. This seal here has to be heated in oil and stretched and put on. So I'm going to show you that me doing that, and obviously replacing all the rest of them. And there's a bushing in this here I have to go pick up, and it has to be replaced also. This is the only thing that keeps this cylinder guided when it gets out to the end. These here keep it in line when it's in the back, and keep the cylinder square as such as it goes in and out. So anyway, I'll show you that whenever I get around to it. So as you can see, I got the nut off and they are very tight. There's just a little indent that the ball makes, the ball locks into, so that to stop it, the nut turning off, that's your lock. These are a couple of little seals here. I'm going to check the kit, see if I have them. I may not actually even have them. I don't think they really matter much. They're only to allow oil in underneath the sleeves to get to the rear part of the ram. So everything looks alright. A few minor wee marks, normal. Nothing extreme. If these are badly damaged or warped, they need replaced. But in my case, I wouldn't be doing that anyway, unless I was sending it away. So it's just, I'm just going to do a rebuild. Seals in here, seals on the piston, and yeah, that's the plan now. So I'll do a video now of us changing them. These have gone very, very hard. Well, not extreme, but they're bad. Yeah, they're hard. And that's what causes internal leaks and passing. This one's not too bad. This here is just a packer. This packs the back of the seal, keeps the strength in the seal. That just comes up against the back of that seal there, like so. It sits into that there. So that's the last line of defense. That's the last oil seal that would retain oil within the ram itself, keep the oil in the cylinder. So that's your makeup there. So this goes in and then that goes in behind it, just to keep the strength in it. It's like a shim, it tightens it up. So there's a lot of dirt in here I'm going to have to clean out. I'm going to take the bush out, new bush. This is the new bush. That has to go in. That's what keeps the cylinder flowing in and out perfectly square in the cylinder, if you know what I mean. So it keeps it from drifting from the cylinder, from drifting over and back on the seals. This is what keeps it in line. That's very, very important. And I can see from this one in here, it's very, very bad. It's very, very badly worn. I'll show you when I get it out anyway, but it's well worn down. There's like a Teflon coating, I think, on this. I think they call it. That's the outer scraper seal, or dust seal some people call it, but it's a scraper that scrapes off any dirt before the cylinder retracts back in. It tries to maintain the cleanliness of the cylinder and etc., and maybe a small amount of lubrication that gets up to the back here that just keeps the seals wet. So that does that job. Right, so I'm going to remove this bush. I actually removed this bush now. I take out, there's a little snap ring in here. So I'm going to have to get the pick in behind the snap ring like this. You may be able to see that. Hopefully you can see that. My head's not in the way. You get one side out. You can work your way around like that there, and it'll pop up. Once it pops up, you can get it out. That has to go back in. And then this here, this bush here, there is different ways of taking these out, in and out. I find just beating them out is the easiest way. I could be wrong, but they are very tight. And I find if you go to too much trouble, they can give you trouble, and you can damage the side of the inside of the. So you can tidy it back up with some sandpaper, but you just don't really want to be damaging them, you know. So that's actually moving. I would normally split these. There's a split in this bushing, and I would normally split them from the other side. I'll see if I can get this moving. If I can't move it too far, I'll just split it. It's moving so far anyway. It's moving out. It's actually starting to separate now, so hopefully it'll keep separating. Yep. There we go. So once it's separated, hopefully, maybe a little bit of persuasion, should be able to pop that in. Very careful here. So hopefully should be able to get this moving. And there we go. So as you can see, it's split. Sometimes you can go from this side, drive down behind the back edge of it here, and it'll pop in. Once it pops in, it'll be sitting like inside itself, like so, like that there, and then once it is, it'll just pop out. So that's the bushing out, and I'm going to clean this and rebuild it, and I'll get back then. Alright, so this is the new bush, obviously. Just put that in there, right? So I don't actually have a proper day to push this in with my press, so what I'm going to use is the sleeve that comes off the actual cylinder, because I know it fits exactly in here, and we'll go up against the back of that. Absolutely perfect. So it's a perfect fit. Obviously it was made for it. So this is an old bearing. I had this, but this was a little bit too small, so I decided to use this, and I'm going to use this here on top of it, which, because of the deep edge on that other sleeve, it'll sit there. I'm going to put this in the press now, and I'm going to push this down and push the new bush down into its place. Obviously I beat out the bush. The bush is not extremely tight. It's tight, but it probably can be done by other means if somebody's looking to do it another way, maybe with a bench vise if you have a big enough one. Or I wouldn't advise beating it with a hammer, but if you have to and you've nothing else, I guess if you do it properly, you might be okay, as long as the bush doesn't go off to one side. But I'm going to use the press anyway, just to the shop press, to make sure that it stays nice and even. So as you can see, this my idea with this sleeve didn't work out completely because it won't bring it down the whole way, as this is a little bit too big to fit down beyond the next groove. So I'm gonna have to find something else here. Eventually got the bush fitted, but what I had to do was use the old bush. There was nothing laying around the workshop here that would fit to press it in, so I cut a little notch out of this to make sure that it wouldn't get stuck in position on me, and I put it down and did what I was doing with the sleeve originally and just pushed it in. Just got that extra couple of mil it needed to go so I can put the snap ring in now. So I'm going to start reassembling the entire I'm going to rebuild this whole entire outer piece now, and seals, etc., since the bushing's in. So as you can see, this new ring is complete. This one is split. So all you do is cut these. You can actually cut these with a blade and put them in. They're only a packer. They're not going to matter if you like as such damage them by cutting them or anything. They're only yeah, they're only packing the thing. So what I do with these is I use a little razor blade. These can be bought in packs. There's like of hundreds. I'm not just sure. I can't remember. It's that long ago since I had to buy them. But I'm just going to cut this one now the same way as that one is. I'm only using this blade because it's so fine. You can use any blade you want, I guess, but just try and keep the cut nice and even. So that's the new one cut. That's better. So that worked out a little bit better than trying to put the packer in second. I got one of the other ones in the last day when I was resealing the other rams, but that just didn't work out for that one. So that's that bit in. I'm just going to put this outer scraper seal in and press him in. And I'll probably use something like probably the piece out of the ram again to push this in. And then I'm going to rebuild this. So I'm going to actually put the oil on, start heating the oil to heat this seal for this. To heat this Teflon seal. We can't cut this one, unfortunately. This one has to stay as is. Just can stretch it and put it back in. So the temperature on this should be about 250 Fahrenheit. So I'm just going to turn this down now. This is, the oil is boiling. This is kind of not the ideal way to do this, but I just don't have resources at hand to do it any other way at the minute. So this, if I can retain this at a steady around 250 degrees Fahrenheit, or change it, it's around 125 degrees Celsius. That oil stays at that. It will mean it's staying steady enough around 260, and it's not increasing. So anything around that, turn it even back a tiny bit more. Yeah, so that's the temperature we need to be at, and that's what will give me the heat for the oil, for the seal. So I'm going to put Teflon oil seal in there now. We don't want that oil getting any hotter than that. If you're ever doing this, you need to make sure that oil does not get any hotter than really around about that temperature. It's hot enough to do this job, so drop that in gently. And if that oil got anywhere between 300 and 500, I'm just not 100% certain, but you could hit the oil flash point and it could just flame up. So you don't want anything like that. 250 degrees is more than enough. The seal will be very hot to handle. I have to put gloves on to use it, but I will show that in a few minutes when I'm getting ready to put it on this. So first of all, I have to put the new O-ring on this. So I'll just put this sitting up here and the oil seal heats. So we're going to put this new O-ring on this first. And that's the O-ring in. So the O-ring sits in underneath the Teflon oil seal, and the Teflon seal is pressed out against the cylinder with this here. So that is that. So I'm going to get the seal on in a second. What I'll show you now currently is these are the packers that go both sides of that oil seal, similar to the other one we did earlier on. These will sit each side of the Teflon seal, and the idea of them is obviously as well to keep the Teflon seal straight. So I have just cut these. These were not cut. I cut them. These were one complete ring. Now maybe there's another way of doing this, but I don't think so, because any of these I've ever taken apart, them rings were already cut, like the old ones here. These old ones were cut also. So I presume you cut them. I've always seen them cut. So if you heat these that are plastic, I guess, I don't think you're going to get them back in shape. So you just cut them, and as long as you can get them in that they sit in nice and tight. So I cut them just now, and the rest of them seals are just for over here. So I'll not put them in till I'm ready to actually slide it into the cylinder. So we'll just get this oil seal in a second, and I'll show you me mounting it. I have to wrap this up with tape just to help it slide in here, because I need it in that far. I don't want it to drop into one of these grooves. If it drops into these grooves, it actually turns into a bit of a problem. So I just taped that up. So this is going to be my mounting side. I'm going to try slide the ring down over this. There's a couple of wee grooves in it. It's not bad though. It shouldn't be a problem to slide the ring in over this to get it to here, because I've learned from experience that unless you do something like this, you're going to be in trouble to get the ring in. It's going to get stuck in one of these grooves, and then it's going to go cold, and then you're not going to be able to move it. So I have this taped up, and just in the meantime I'll show you this. I made this up very simply out of the bottom of a small gas bottle. It's like a little heat torch gas bottle. I just cut it out, and I know there's just a bit of tape on it just to keep it from damaging the seal, and I tacked this together very quickly. I cut out these couple of pieces of plate, and this works like obviously like just in and out, just operates to stretch the seal. I needed something to stretch the seal, and I have no professional tools to do it, so I just made my own. This took about, I suppose it took an hour or so to make, but it was worth every penny to do this, because the last time I'd done the seals, I was going a very hard way about it, trying to stretch them by hand. It doesn't work. This here stretches them evenly. So when they're stretched evenly, then obviously you don't have any problems with them or damaging them or anything like that, because to get one of these seals, you have to buy a kit, and a kit is whatever, I think like 60 euros or 55 euros. So it's an expensive seal, really, like to be damaging. So yeah, so that's, I'm going to use that now in a second. Now, whenever I get this the seal out of the oil, it'll be more than hot enough now. At this stage, it's just I have to get my gloves on, seal out of the oil, stretch it, and try to get it down onto this as quick as I can. Gonna have to stretch it again, so I'm gonna heat it again. So now I'm going to put this back in oil so that it heats this up, and I'm going to use these old rings, these outer packers, to keep it in lane while I use these piston ring squeezers to just keep the entire thing back together. So I'll wrap a rag around it, stretch these out, hopefully. And once I put it around this here, it'll help this come back in. But I'm going to leave it in the oil for a few minutes, because the heat will actually help the ring actually retract. And then in the meantime, I'll be just putting the rest of the new packed collar back onto the cylinder. So now you can see it's pulled in kind of the way it should be. It's protruding a little bit, as it should, but once it's hot, it seems to be that this this Teflon seems to be very workable once it's hot. So this is still fairly hot from sitting in the oil, but the piston ring squeezers are pretty much the best option to straighten it. I don't know, there's probably a better option. There could be some sort of days you can use to do it, but at my disposal, this is all I have. So this works. Put a rag around it just to protect it. I've just stuck in these old packers. I'm going to leave it here now for a couple of minutes so it cools, and then I'm going to put the new ones in, mount this back on the cylinder, and that's it. I'm finished. I'll put the cylinder back together and we're ready to go. So just to show you quickly, what I was checking for with the light was while I was tightening it, if you can see in through the hole, you can actually see the indent in the thing. So it's down to the lower side where the ball is going to drop. So when I put the ball in there, it's going to lay up against that indent, and when I put the grub screw in, it's going to tighten. And that tightening against that indent, then this nut can never move. Well, that's the idea. And then I'm going to center punch this to ensure that that grub screw can never come out. So I just drop that in now. I just grab the little ball here. So there's the little ball in the hole. So you can see it's laying up against that indent. So now I am going to put this little grub screw in. If I get the ratchet, thread it back in. Make sure that's good and tight. Don't have to break it, but it has to be tight. And then I'm just going to get center punch here now, and I'm going to hit this a couple of whacks each side, just to ensure that this spreads in here in front of this, so that grub screw can never make its way out. Reinstalled the dipper arm, all's good, no leaks or anything like that. Obviously it needs a good wash. The whole thing is covered in oil, so good wash now, and that's it. Happy out. As I said, I'm going to repair this now. I have a little bracket made for this. I'm just going to weld a small bracket here and a little piece of pipe that it can be clamped together to hold this. Saves getting one of these pipes, as this is perfectly fine. It just needs to be held up to stop it wearing along this edge here and ruining it, as it's already damaged. So that's it. All good. Dipper arm installed, or dipper ram reinstalled.